The lifter appears to be in a good starting position here for the bent over row. We see good hip and knee flexion with the back just above parallel to the floor. As we'll see, the bar is lifted and lowered with flexion and extension of the elbows in the sagittal plane. Muscles that would include these movements would be the biceps and the triceps as agonist and antagonist, respectively. Some other muscles that would include in these movements on the concentric phase would include the rhomboids, the traps, and the lats. On the eccentric phase, we would see the anterior delt, the pecs, and the triceps. Another muscle to mention would be the posterior delt on the concentric phase. This would all be done in the sagittal plane with scapular retraction and protraction on the concentric and eccentric phase, respectively, being the frontal plane. Some coaching cues to think about would include set your core or tighten up. As we play the video in full here, we see the lifter does a decent job of controlling the weight, but at the same time they might sway a little bit. So tightening that synergist, major synergist muscle, as the abdominals, could possibly prevent this. Another coaching cue to think about would be to breathe. So although this is only 3 reps, we got to think about breathing. On the concentric phase, we should be breathing out, and the eccentric phase, we should be breathing in. We see here the starting position for the lat pull down. We have good hand placement beyond the shoulders here on the bar, good torso lean, and we do have our legs underneath the pads. First, we'll go over the down phase or the concentric phase of this lift, where the lifter will bring the bar down to their chest with full elbow flexion, and the eccentric phase or the upward phase with elbow extension here. On the concentric phase, we have the lats working, teres major, mid traps, rhomboids, and the posterior delts here. On the flip side, the concentric phase or the upward phase, we have our antagonists, the triceps, the chest or the pecs, and the anterior delts. Several coaching cues come to mind here as the lifter doesn't get the bar all the way down to their chest. Maybe we need to get some more lean on this machine here, more torso lean. Some other things to think about, obviously, in every lift would be set your core or tighten up, breathe. And another one on a machine that I would like to use, because you have so much help here with the pads and your synergists or your abdominals, would be to mind your movers. What I mean by mind your movers is to think about the muscle that is contracting. So we have so much help here, we should be able to target that lat and the other back muscles and get a good lift in. Here we have the lifter ready to execute a seated row. Good upright torso, full elbow extension, slight knee bend, getting ready to do the concentric pull using their lats, teres major, mid traps, rhomboids, and posterior delts. The concentric phase will also consist of some elbow flexion, which would include the biceps. The eccentric phase, or the back phase, will include antagonists such as the pecs, anterior delts, and the triceps. As we go through the lift here, we see some good breathing here with the lifter, some slight swaying here, which would indicate maybe they need to set their core or tighten up. Another thing with the machines is we do have a lot of support here. This lifter is able to put their feet and drive through the pads as they concentrically elbow flex. So we got to mind our movers here. We got to think about retracting that scapula. We got to think about firing those lats and pulling. Another thing to think about here on the seated row is, although it looks like they have some good technique here, maybe we could keep those elbows a little bit tighter and not flare out so much. We'll start here with the classic flat bench press. We see the 5 points of contact: the head, the upper back, the butt, the left foot, and the right foot. We see our hands are gripped pronated beyond shoulder width with our thumbs wrapped around the bar as well. Typically you would see a spotter here with alternated grips, assisting the lifter off the supports, through the lift, and back on the supports. We will begin with the eccentric phase here, as the lifter lifts it off the supports and will go down towards the chest. Some of the antagonists on the down phase here for the eccentric phase would be the biceps, the lats, and the posterior delts. A coaching cue here is breathe, which we do see the lifter engaging in here on the pause, and we'll exhale on the way up. Plenty of coaching cues can come to mind here on a core lift, such as the flat bench press. Drive, push that weight, use your feet on the ground as support. Mind your movers, or think about the major muscles you're using. So really think about the pecs firing and pushing that weight out. Previously mentioned breathe, which we do indicate that the lifter does a good job here on this lift as well. And of course tighten up, or harden your core, tighten that core, and stabilize yourself as you're firing through the lift in the concentric phase. Alright, we got the incline bench here. We got the lifter ready to lift the bar off of the supports. Typically you would see a spotter here with alternated grips, lifting off the support through the lift and back onto the support. We see a good pronated grip with thumbs wrapped around the bar and hands beyond shoulder width. We see the bar lifted over the chest, ready for the eccentric phase down to the chest. Some antagonist muscles here would be the biceps, the lats, and the posterior delts. We see the lifter here go all the way down to the chest. We see a big breath in, ready to fire the weight outwards, and breathe out as well, or exhale. We see good elbow flexion and extension here with each rep, and the re-rack. Although still on a bench, we do need to be mindful of our stabilization here with our 5 points of contact: the head, the upper back, the butt, the left foot, and the right foot, as well as controlling the weight all the way through, which we do see the lifter here engage that. We would like to see a spotter here just in case of injury or preventing injury from the lift off from the incline bench. We also have to remember to be mindful of tightening up or hardening our core as we move through the sagittal plane here with our incline bench reps. Alright, here we have the pec deck. We're going to target the pec majors here. We see a good starting position here, ready to fire out. This is a big time mind your mover lift. What I mean by mind your mover is to think about firing your pecs as you move through the lift. As we go through here, we're pressing in full range of motion here through the shoulders, concentrically through the pec major, eccentrically with the rhomboids and the mid traps.